If you feel scared, you feel XYZ, do it anyways. That's the mindset that I took upon after, because it was something very tangible where, because I was shy and nervous, I missed an opportunity of $50. That's equivalent to me missing an opportunity today of $1,000. So from that day, it was not a, hey, I won't ever be shy. No, that's not what it was. It was a, I will be shy and do it anyways because I will miss opportunities. I am never, ever going to allow myself to miss an opportunity because I'm scared. That's really what it was for me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unmuted Moments, the podcast where we explore the journey of finding and owning your voice. I'm your host, Ahis, and today I am joined by someone who embodies this journey in every way. Nkimbeng, also known as the Engineer Emcee. He's an engineer, an investor, and he has hosted over 150 events across 5 countries. And his mission is to become the go-to MC for tech and corporate events to make them more engaging, dynamic, and unforgettable. So from navigating self-doubt to overcoming imposter syndrome to standing in front of crowds and commanding a room, he's a great example of someone who has found his voice. And so today, we're going to dive into his journey. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am super excited to be here. It's quite the honor.
Also, you're the first MC I'm having on the show, so I'm super excited for this conversation today. So I usually like to start with your background. So can you walk us through your background growing up and how that impacted or shaped your voice?
Let me get a little background about myself. So as you know, with a great introduction, my name is Nkimbeng. I was born in Lowell, Massachusetts. Shout out to 978 Mill City. My origin background is from Cameroon, Central Africa. With that, I then lived in Cameroon from 7th to 10th grade. So that aspect of kind of being within both worlds, being able to see the two different experiences. And growing up, it was very interesting because being born in the US, but having parents who were, especially my father, very strict Africans. Like, I was born in the US, but I was not raised as an American. It's very funny because some of my friends who were born and raised in Cameroon come to the US and see me and they'll be like, you're more Cameroonian than us. That's how I was raised. And a lot of the reason why this podcast really resonates with me is because the aspect of finding your voice is literally the story of my life. Where people see me now, a lot of people assume, they have this big assumption that I'm the most extroverted person in the world, etc. Many people don't know is like, I'm pretty shy. Like, most people don't know that. But I personally just realized that in this life, and this might be controversial, but it's like, emotions are there. You're going to feel certain ways, but that does not change the fact. And it's like, there was a quote somewhere that someone said, I forgot what it was. It was like, yeah, you're nervous, do it anyways. Yeah, you're scared, do it anyways. Yeah, you're this, do it anyways. So I've just begun to live in that, do it anyways. And that's what's really helped and shaped me.
So I guess just going to the statement you made about how you had friends who actually were born and raised in Cameroon, came here and they thought you were more Cameroonian than they were. So for your perspective though, did you ever, I don't want to say like, not like that experience of like having to grow in a place where it was very strict in terms of the African value and maybe having friends who were maybe more on the American side? Like how did you navigate that compared to other people or potentially like your friends who may have had a more American experience? Like for you, how was that feeling for you growing up?
I loved it because in Lowell, we have like my own community where there was a whole lot of other Africans that I grew up, especially Cameroonians. And of course, within our household, the biggest thing was education. You got to study, you got to get your books, you got to have your good grades.
Straight A's.
For me, as a kid that liked to have fun and low, like I was big into sports. I played basketball. I liked to go out and have fun and whatnot. I made sure that I had very good grades. And then I would go and play sports. I'd be like the star of the basketball team. I'd go out and have fun at parties and stuff. And that's that balance that I was able to make. And it was interesting because I remember playing like sports. A lot of my friends didn't know that I was in like the higher classes, like AP and stuff. They're like thinking like, you're the typical quote unquote jock, right? It's like I would go out with them, have fun, but then go home and study. But like they'd go after having fun, they'd go home and sleep. But like I'm just like balancing too because I know that the only reason the way I'll be allowed to do these things is if I do well in school.
So that's a trick. So for listeners who are in immigrant families, the trick there is to get all A's. You can go and have fun and do sports and do whatever you want to. But first, you got to make the straight A's. But just trying to connect it to voice though, through those sort of cultural experiences, like growing up in a Cameroonian household and having neighbors or people in the community who are also Cameroonians, like how did that directly impact your voice? Did that make you very comfortable expressing yourself at that point? Or was it further along that sort of realized or you came into the voice that you have now?
I think it's one of those things where it just ended up happening. And you say the voice that I have now, it's one thing that's aggressive.
It's a journey.
It's a
Yep.
journey.
Yep.
I was on a panel last week. People couldn't tell, but I don't know what, this was actually very weird. Like I get nervous sometimes, but I was on that panel and I was like shaking. It was so weird. But like, of course, like while I was speaking, people couldn't tell. But like for some reason, I still kind of sometimes feel that way. But with kind of directly related to your question, how that related is that look at things of going to school and what I would bring for lunch, right? The kids, they're eating their ham and cheese sandwiches, Lunchables. And sometimes that's what I would bring. Other times my mom would be like, hey, we have some food for you to eat at school. And I'm like, I can't do that. I had one of my other friends, he's also Cameroonian. Like, I didn't even remember the story. It was my mom who told me that like I would bring lunch to school, maybe some African dish, and like he would have maybe like Lunchables. And I was probably in like kindergarten. He was in like second grade or something. And he'd be like, nah, little bro, we don't eat that here. Leave that African stuff at home. You gotta be cool. Share this Lunchables with me. So it's those things where it's like, man, I'm trying to fit in. But it's interesting how the world changes because now being African is like the cool thing.
That's what makes you special now. So you've, again, just still keeping to your growing up and background, you shared this experience about being 10 and going for like a rap competition and then freezing on stage. Can you take us through that moment and what was going through your head? First, set the stage of what the event was about, and what that experience felt like at the time.
So the event, that was the African Festival in Lowell. So my parents were a part of the pioneers who started the African Festival in 2000 in Lowell. So with that, I think that year, the theme was AIDS, I think.
Like HIV? What kind of HIV AIDS? Oh, okay.
The Community Health Center was one of the sponsors. With that, they wanted some performers and they were looking for someone to rap and they were going to give that person $50. I don't know if this is probably the first time admitting this, but the rap that I was going to use was 100% plagiarized.
Like plagiarized
from online. It was an actual song, Spice Girls or something.
Oh.
So I think the name of the song is Let's Talk About Sex. It was a big festival.
Oh, big festival. Okay.
So I was supposed to rap about related to AIDS. I got on stage. I was ready, like $50. That's a lot of money for me at the time. I was like 10 years old. And I got there. I saw it was probably about 300 people in front of me at that moment. It was on local live television, channel 8. Don't look for it. The tapes are burnt. And I just froze. I froze. I could not speak. There were so many people. I could not speak. I cried and ran off the stage. And then people were like, well, what is going on? And then they let something else happen. And I did not get the $50.
So I'm just interested in this from like an African parent's perspective. Like what kind of support, like how did they encourage you?
Honestly, I don't even remember. I think probably my brothers laughed at me, as expected. My mom was probably like, "Oh,
It's okay.
what's going on?" And my dad was probably like, "Come on, what are you doing? Don't embarrass me here."
How? Because I think some of those key moments sometimes can have like a lasting effect in your life, right? Sometimes like it's stuck in your head, and you just get stuck with that negative feeling. So how? I don't know if you can remember or recall like how long this sort of feeling stuck with you, and when you were able to like shake it off and like, okay, you know what, this was just one bleep, and it wouldn't define me.
I believe I shook it off immediately. I found out I was not going to get the $50. And honestly, that's why when I mentioned earlier in our conversation about, hey, if you feel scared, you feel XYZ, do it anyways. That's the mindset that I took upon after, because it was something very tangible where, because I was shy and nervous, I missed an opportunity of $50. That's equivalent to me missing an opportunity today of $1,000. Right. So from that day, it was not a, hey, I won't ever be shy. No, that's not what it was. It was a, I will be shy and do it anyways because I will miss opportunities. I am never, ever going to allow myself to miss an opportunity because I'm scared. That's really what it was for me.
I mean, that's so powerful that that was your takeaway at that stage of your life, because I think even for me now, you're not always going to feel prepared or feel ready for whatever it is, project or presentation or public speaking or whatever you're doing. But the most important thing is just showing up and continue to show up until that thing, before you know it, sometimes then becomes like second nature. Becomes like, oh, this was never a big deal. So why was I even worrying about this thing? But speaking for myself, I didn't get this approach until like very late in life. So that's powerful that that was one of your takeaway at that early stage of your life. And if we bring this back to early in the program, you mentioned how people think you're an extrovert, but you're somewhere in between. From what I understand about extroverts and introverts, they say it's about your energy level, right? For extroverts, they get energy hanging with people, and introverts get the energy from sometimes just alone time, just reading or some activity that's like alone time. So as an MC, you were in front of like a lot of crowd and all that stuff. So how do you manage that energy dynamic between, let's say, your introvert side and being an MC and being in front of a lot of people?
First of all, I think all of those definitions are nonsense. And the whole aspect of putting ourselves into all of these labels and
Yeah,
boxes is just excuses for us to define ourselves as something so that when we don't do something, you can say, it's
it's because of
because
this.
I'm a
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So it's like
It's
a way, an
because I'm
escape,
an
or an
introvert.
excuse.
It's, I think as humans, we are able to adjust and flow depending on situations. And so, yeah, I think that's really the first aspect of it. And for me, actually, when it comes to hosting of events, I look at it as a whole kind of methodology where it's trying to really understand the first aspect of what is the goal and how is it that I can be that bridge for that program to be successful. Because there are some things where, like, it's not all about just hyping people up. No, depending on the context, there might be some times where you speak with suspense so that it is able to hit more, or you lower your tone,
Yeah.
right? Or you hype people up, or you naturally transition into things. And because what I've realized is very important is what people remember is how they felt. And it's my goal to allow the organization's message to land, to help their speakers be elevated, and to help the organization really hit their ROI, return on investment. Because a lot of times with these events, especially if let's say it's a conference or something, sometimes it's your manager that is forcing you to go. They're sending 5 people by force and like they don't really care to go. But now imagine that they have such a great time and of course educated as well. I like to call it edutainment. They have such a great time that the next year they become raving fans and they are like fighting to go. That's how you look at it. So for me, being able to balance, like before going into an event, I really make sure that I understand the organization and their goals. And I don't like to just come as an outsider and be quote unquote winging it. What I consider success in no matter the type of event, whether it's a corporate event, whether it's a wedding, whether it's what, is at the end of the day, when someone comes up to me and asks me, for example, oh, hey, how long have you been working here?
Mm.
Or, oh, hey, how long have you known the couple? Are you their cousin or something? Because they can clearly tell that I took the time and I'm so intertwined with everything that is going on and I'm not an outsider.
That's quite the stamp of approval for someone to think you're part of the company, you're part of the family. So just to even take a step back even more, what point did you even decide that I can do this? I can be an MC and I can be a top MC and do this line of work? Just again, thinking about the experience growing up and that experience we talked about, you at 10 and going on stage. What other experiences led you to decide that this is something that you want to pursue and you'll be good at?
All right. The very first event I hosted was probably in college, 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. And because I was the president of our Black Student Union, we would have different events and we did not have the budget to hire a host. So as president, I naturally became the host. But I did not actually begin taking this serious till beginning of last year.
Oh,
And mind you, I had done tons of events prior to that, right? But at that point, it was just hey, this is a fun little thing that I do on the side. I did not see it as something that I didn't even know that there was an opportunity for this to be more than that, where I can get even more opportunities, right? It was not until beginning of last year, this is why I believe that the people you surround yourself with are extremely important. They either lift you up, bring you down, or rarely keep you at the same spot. And I say that because, well, 2 years ago, I had gone to Jamaica for some events, 2 weddings I was hosting out. Went to Mexico. I had a bunch of events out in a bunch of different states. But to me, as I was saying, like, this was just something fun. Like, it's nothing serious. So my friends were like, hey, what if you actually took this serious? Like, you're not even really trying. You're not even really promoting this. It's all word of mouth. And you're going to all these places. Don't you think you could make actually a significant amount of money and make an impact if you take this serious? And I fought this for like a week. I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. This is not even something that is possible, until I did my research. And I realized that there were actual corporate MCs who do this full time. I've not reached that part yet, but that's what I realized. And then, as from a networking perspective, you know me, I'm going to shoot my shot, all right? I started reaching out to them the same way that you reached out to me in my DM. I started reaching out. Like, these were people who are top. Sent them emails.
Wait, to companies or to other MCs? Okay.
To understand, like, what does that even mean as a corporate MC? Like, is this actually a thing? Reached out to some in Australia, some out here in the US. And then I hopped on the phone with this one lady, and she was talking to me about it. I was telling her how I do weddings, etc. She goes, okay, yeah, that's cute. You know, you're doing well. Then on the Zoom, she shares her screen. She's like, yeah, I'm in negotiations with this organization, which she shows me. She's like, yeah, it's a 3-day conference. And currently we're kind of negotiating around 15,000. I'm trying to be comfortable with them and give them my lower rates. And I said, you know what?
What?
I was like, wait, what? 3 days? So if I do this math, that's more than my engineering salary. Okay. Like, it was at that moment that I realized that, okay, it's possible. I just needed to see it. And once I realized that it was possible, I was like, okay, let me begin doing that. So that was really that moment for me. If that moment had not happened, honestly, I don't think I would have 100% been in it, which is why I believe that representation is so important. And I've been doing that throughout my whole life, because a lot of times people within the African American community, when you see people who are successful, what do you naturally think? It's like sports, music. But then me, for example, I'm part of the National Society of Black Engineers. One of the things is that representation, going out into communities and letting them know that, hey, you can be an engineer. You can be this, you can be that. And to me, what I got on that day was the confirmation that I need that I can be a professional MC. I didn't know that was a thing.
It's so powerful, a lesson about the power of representation or exposure. And that's part of also the goal of this podcast, of this show, to highlight different stories. And hopefully hearing some of these stories would also inspire someone to say, oh, I can do it too. I can be an MC too. You know what I mean? to go out there and command rooms. Staying on the corporate side of things, for people who don't know, you had a podcast, Engineers That Invest, and one of your episodes were about imposter syndrome. And you gave an example where you guys went out to lunch, and I think it was like barbecue ribs, and people were using like knives and forks to eat it. And then you're like, what's going on here? What we're doing? Can you walk through that experience or that moment and any other similar experiences in terms of trying to fit in or belong when you started your journey in the corporate world?
So my thought on that is something that's interesting because within every milieu of life, there are certain things and standards that you need to learn. And with that example that I gave, I think it was one of the first few days, like they brought us to our like headquarters, super corporate. And normally I don't get barbecue ribs in those certain areas because I want to eat my barbecue ribs to really enjoy it. I don't want any stainless steel.
It gets messy.
I want to taste it all. So myself
Yeah.
and this other wonderful woman of melanin looked at each other and was like, I get these ribs. I was like, sure, I got it. Now they sat at the table. Everyone was using a fork and knife. And I was just like, this is just not going to taste the same. I can't do this. I don't even know what I ended up doing. I probably ate it with the fork. But I do know that like I waited for quite some time.
Trying to decide what to do.
Trying to decide what to do. But the thing about it is that I don't think there's anything bad with that. I think that you have, depending on where you are, there are certain standards, and that is okay. The same way how I speak to my mother differently than I speak to my brother and differently than I may speak to someone else. I think there's this fine line between understanding the right time and place and understanding the aspect of what we may call authenticity. And that's a conversation that I've had with people at times because really what is the definition of authenticity? Because I feel like in all situations, we all have to be flexible in all things. And it is okay to adjust to be able to make another person more comfortable because we are not, as an individual, I am not the person who creates all of the standards and everything that I want goes. It's a give and take. And that is okay. That's why sometimes it's difficult for me. There's conversations that I've had in the past where we talk about work and like coming as yourself and your 100% self. But my thought sometimes is, what does that really mean? Because like, I'm not going to go to, like, there's things that I do at home. I'm comfortable to do at home, but I'm not going to go and do that at my friend's house.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming as myself. Like, what is the meaning of self? I believe that we consistently change and upgrade and learn new things and adapt, and that is okay. Yeah, I don't know. Let me not go all psychological.
No, I mean, I've been thinking about that topic of authenticity, but in different contexts. Even as I start this podcast, the whole concept of originality versus authenticity. I'm sure there's a lot of podcasts that talk about this subject. And so what's my angle? Like, why am I doing this? And so I've been thinking about, okay, you know what? I think at the end of the day, right, our voices are very unique. Yes, there might be people with bigger brands or bigger following who are doing something like this, but obviously they have a very unique and different journey than I have. And so in terms of that topic, as I've been thinking about it more recently, it's like at the end of the day, sometimes what's more important is not the original concept, right? It's like doing something that's really true to you. So I think to your point about being yourself in the corporate environment and sort of adapting, I would think about it in the sense of like what gets you or makes you perform at your highest level. There'll be some bound, right? I can't just wear flip-flops and show up in the office even if I'm like very comfortable with flip-flops, right? So that's like a sort of the give and take you were talking about. The way I think about showing up as yourself is within the bounds of something that does not suppress you from performing as best as you can. I think to me, that's sort of like the bounds. I think about it like there's certain things that I could change and adapt that doesn't really matter, doesn't impact my performance. But if there's certain things, like say I am in a meeting, there's always someone who's like shutting down my ideas. Like every time I say something that might be productive, someone else is shutting down, or someone who's like remixing my ideas and using it as their own. Like those type of things that I could see those kind of things like impacting someone's performance. This kind of environment does not allow you to show up as yourself, right? That's kind of how I think about that, the give and take between what's authentic and adapting to whatever the environment requires. Okay, I want to talk about imposter syndrome because that's part of this whole journey about finding yourself or finding your voice and overcoming self-doubt. So what are your thoughts on imposter syndrome and how have you navigated it?
My thoughts on imposter syndrome. I think that when it comes to imposter syndrome, a lot of the times we believe that you're waiting for yourself to gain confidence before you do something. But that is very flawed. You act, and as you act, that's when you gain the confidence. You gain the confidence from doing the thing, and that allows you to be more confident and you'll be able to do it more. Right? I think there was a quote by, was that J. Cole? Or was that Drake? Oh my God, that's crazy. I'm confusing this. It was like, hey, you know it's real when you are who you say you are.
I think it's Drake. You mentioned this quote in your episode. So Drake.
Right. The whole aspect of imposter syndrome is, I believe, is just it's something that we make within ourselves. I think the thing about it is that people don't care about you that much. You're not that important. There was a quote by, I don't remember who the quote is by, but it's like, when you're 18, you worry about what everyone thinks of you. When you're 40, you stop caring about what everyone thinks of you. And when you're 60, you realize that no one was thinking about you in the first place. The reality is, all the times, the aspect of imposter syndrome, being so scared that, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, is a lot of the times it's you are worried about how other people perceive you. If you're not worried about what other people are seeing about you, then you're just going to keep on going. Let's look at it this way. A lot of us played video games growing up. You probably get to level 1, level 2, level 3, get to level 10. Now you're going against the boss and you fail. And you are going on that level until you beat him. You don't care. You'll be on that level for a month. Why? Because you're at your house. You're alone. There's no one there to judge you. You don't have the imposter syndrome that I can't beat this person. You're like, oh no, I can do it. But so I think imposter syndrome, of all of the aspect of it, is that outside perspective of you're seeing other people and they're like, oh, hey, what do they think about me? I failed this last time. I did this. And especially with social media nowadays, where social media is a highlight tape. You only see the goods that are happening. And with that, if you begin to compare someone's highlight reel to your reality, that gives you more of that imposter syndrome, because it's like, wow, look at Bob. He just went and did this, and I'm still struggling. But you don't know how many times he struggled at all, because he doesn't post about it.
Exactly.
Not sexy. So I think that's where really imposter syndrome stems from, because what I've realized is, actually, I have a great example. So I mentioned, like, I host a bunch of different types of events, but I really started with weddings. That's where a majority of the events I've done. There was this one wedding MC, very famous in Nigeria, super, super famous. Like, this guy has tons of followers. He's flying all around the world. So as I do, I reached out to him on Instagram. We connected, we chatted quite a bit, and he was doing an event in Dallas because I'm in Dallas. So he invited me to come and like see him MC. I was like, yeah, I'm there. And he did great. I'm not saying he did bad. Let me give some context. I'm not saying he did bad. But as I sat there and watched, I was like, there's nothing super special that I'm like, oh, wow, this is the greatest man in the world. I could have done the same exact thing. And immediately that imposter syndrome that I had, thinking that I put him on the biggest pedestal, seeing the actual reality is like, oh, yeah, I'm, and we talked about it. I was straight up, we talked about it. And he was like, oh yeah, bro. Hey, you're great.
You can do it too.
You are great. It's all about the presentation and how you package and leveraging social media. Straight up told me that. So I think that's really my thoughts when it comes to imposter syndrome.
Yeah. One framework describes this as credibility versus ability. Sometimes we think we need that credibility to do that thing. We think we need maybe to apply for that job. We think we need that big name school. Like all the things that give people credibility before we think we can do that thing. When, if you think about it, you just really need the ability to learn. It's the ability and capability that's more important than the credibility. So I guess just from again, this exposure thing. So what advice for someone, let's just keep it from a career professional standpoint, like somebody who's trying to maybe just develop more confidence in themselves to actually be able to like advocate for themselves, speak up to their manager or their skip level manager or all the people around them who can actually like make a difference or make an impact in getting them to that next step? What kind of things can they do to give them that exposure, to prep them to be able to do that?
The reality is, you can be doing so much and people are not aware. It's not the people who are the best who get noticed, it's the people who are the most known.
Snap, 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 snap. That's a gem right there. You just dropped.
I think, and that's why, number one, the aspect of building relationships and not just being so focused. Yes, you're at work, you have certain outcomes and goals. That's great. You hit that. But those who really level up, it's about the relationships that you're able to build. And with the specific context that you mentioned related to someone believing that they are putting in the work and they want to be able to discuss with their manager or skip level manager, to be able to make it easier and less stressful, you can simply go to them and ask a question rather than coming up with, I've done this, and I deserve this. According to who? Instead, ask a question. So when you begin to set the frame from the very beginning, and it's pretty much what's in it for them. It's a, hey, I really enjoy this role, and my goal is to make your life easier. What is it? And ideally, what I really want to do is be able to take on projects that have a larger impact on the company. What is it that I would need to do within the next 6 to 12 months that would allow me to be able to take on larger projects with a greater impact and receive a promotion? Ask it like that and leave it on them. They give you the blueprint, and then now you follow that blueprint. And if it comes to that point where you're coming to like, hey, I've done this that we talked about, how is that going? If at that point they're still playing games, then hey, it might be time to send your talents to South Beach.
But at least it's not, I guess the important thing there is like, it's not you at this point. Not okay. Yeah.
I think what happens sometimes is that, especially if you've not set up the context in the very beginning to understand, it's difficult for you to say, hey, we talked about this. This is something tangible. And because you said, if I do this, I would get this, right? But now sometimes what we do is we have this context in our head that I have done all that is needed to get to that next level, but you did not get directly from the horse's mouth what is needed to get there. So now you're feeling pissed off. And then you go to your manager not in a sense of collaboration, but you go in a sense of attack. And naturally, people get defensive. I think that's just it's about being savvy, politically savvy, to understand, like, you know what you want to get, how do you get it? Sometimes it's not the best to just, some people be like, yeah, I like to just be straight up. Like, that's not how you talk. Like, come on. Both of us are married. When you went to get your wife, you have to be smooth.
For me, how this one sort of resonated with me, I had one job early on in my career where I knew that one year that I was eligible for this particular promotion, and I didn't even have a convo with my manager at all. I didn't even tell him like, hey, I am aiming for this promotion, and what can I do, or what are the criteria? So at the end of the year, we can revisit and say, okay, you met. But I think I didn't meet whatever the criteria was at that time to get that promotion, because there's someone else who were in the similar that was generally more outspoken than I was, and he got promoted, and I didn't. But the problem was I never actually had the conversation with my manager to start with that, hey, I was looking to get promoted this. I just assumed that was my year. If the tenure sort of hits and then I'm doing the work, naturally I'll get promoted. Right? That's kind of how I thought about it. And I didn't say a word. I did not even like ask and talk about it. My manager never brought it up either. So I just kind of assumed by just working hard and hitting all the milestones, hopefully going above and beyond what people in that role would do, that was sufficient enough. So that was part of my lesson early on, how I learned like, hey, you can't just like put your head down and just assume people would give you what you deserve. Like, you got to advocate for yourself. And I think it's very important, as you said, to come at it from the context of a question. Like, hey, here are the goals and what do I need to do? And then hopefully you don't just wait till the end of the year again to check in. Hopefully you check in periodically to say, okay, am I tracking? So if you do have feedback that says, no, you're not tracking, you have some room to course correct. So for listeners out there, hopefully you don't wait 10 years into your career to learn this. I learned this the hard way. We are almost time to wrap up now. What are 2 songs for you? Go-to songs that fires you up when you're preparing for something big.
Okay. First song, is I Need Faith by Alex G.
I
think it's Alex Jean.
Is he French? Is it Jean?
Alex Jean. It's just a nice vibe when I just need to just tell me that.
So it sounds like for you, it's more like like for me, I'm like when I'm preparing, I want something that gets me like really riled up.
And then I got my other song. The song is called Sue
By who?
Bablee, Bablee. That song is just your audience probably won't know the song.
So give us what's the song about?
I don't know.
What about the song inspires you, gets you in that?
It's just the beat, the vibe. I'm just like, oh yeah, let's go. Come on. Can y'all hear that?
I can hear it. I know it. Oh, I did not know what the name of the song was or who sang it. Oh, but I know the song for sure. Yes, it gets you. Yep, I know that song for sure. All right. Thank you.
And with this podcast, this amazing platform that's going to go international, I think I'm gonna have to reach out to these artists to
Get the rights
for some promotion because they're about to get
promotion.
like 5 billion streams.
They're about to blow up. I really appreciate your time today. So as we wrap up, I want to ask, how can people follow you who may be interested in following your work or to book you for an event?
For sure. Hey, I look at it like this. If you're looking for an MC who doesn't just keep the event moving, but makes it unforgettable, then please reach out. And you can find me at Your Event MC. That's MC.com. And there you can see some of my past work and book me for conferences, galas, live events, weddings, whatever it is. And then you can also find me on Instagram at Your Event MC. And if you want some more of the corporate content, you can find me on LinkedIn. And that is at my name, Nkimbeng. That's N. Let me say that phonetically. When you have an African name like that, you got to get used to it. That's N as in Nancy, D as in dog, E as in echo.
You got it down.
Last name is N as in name.
I will leave it in the
K as in kilo. But he'll probably put it in the show description.
I'll put it in the show notes so people can easily find you. So thank you. This has been very inspiring. I really appreciate your time sharing your journey with me and the listeners. For those listening, if this episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to Unmuted Moments and rate it 5 stars. Share it with a friend. That's it for today. Thanks again for listening. I'm Ahis. Until next time, stay unmuted.